Redsville, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
What's up, crypto fam? Welcome to the Extra Bullish Hour with your host, the Bagman, Berserker, Uncle Buster, Fuma Boys, and Nerdy X. Smash those likes and the subscribe button on the way in. Thanks, fam.
Pump it up, pump it, pump it up, pump it up. Gotta pump my bags up, pump it to the moon. Pump my bags up. XRP, pump it to the moon. Pump it up, pump my bags up, pump it up.
Now buckle up and let's get bullish. Extra bullish.
Pump it up, XRP to the moon. Pump it up, pump it up, pump it up. Gotta pump my bags up, pump it to the moon. Pump my bags up. XRP, pump it to the moon. Pump it up, pump my bags up, pump it up, pump my bags up. Gotta pump it up, pump my bags up. Pump my moon bags, pump my moon bags. Pump it up, pump it up. Pump my moon bags, better pump it up. Pump it to the moon, pump it up. XRP to the moon. XRP to the moon. Pump it up, pump.
Mastermind behind that. You're like, as far as the code and writing all the good stuff, this is going to protect us from wallet drainage, and you've got dusting attacks and all kinds of stuff, right? What does this do exactly, if you don't mind?
Well, first of all, I'm one of two, myself and Dennis Angel, who is essentially the other developer that I'm working on with this project. So it's kind of a collaboration between the two of us. What I'll do is I give you a 60-second pitch on it, and then I'm sure you'll have loads of questions which will sort of like come from it, right? So I just want you to all do one thing for me. Just imagine waking up and all your XRP is gone because someone has got your secret key somehow. And it doesn't even matter how, because there are potentially lots of different ways that can happen. So let's just say it happened. We all know, self-custody is awesome. And we all love the idea of be your own bank and all those things, but with self-custody comes the responsibility. If you lose your XRP, there's no one you can go and phone. There's no CEO to shout at. There's no bank to ring and get your money back. If it's gone, it's gone. And so ultimately, we all know it's like one of the first lessons you learn in crypto when you join, and one of the first things you get told by OGs that are inviting you in is keep your private keys safe, whether that's 24 words, a series of numbers, whatever it is that you're using. If you don't keep that secure, you're just waiting for someone to come and steal all your money with no recourse at all. So wake up one morning, all your XRP is gone. So this is what Dennis and I are doing. Is not a program that you install on your computer. It's not something you run on your phone, right? This is an XRPL ledger amendment to the core protocol itself. So if we can get this thing in, it's the actual XRP ledger protocol that provides you with this level of protection. Okay. Wow. Basically what it does, you could have all of your XRP. If you enabled the firewall, once it's live, you could literally, with it enabled, you could put your private key on Twitter publicly and still no one could take your money. So even the fear of someone socially engineering you or hacking you or however they get hold of your key, that you would just sleep a little bit easier knowing that your XRP is safe, even if you were to be compromised. And for anyone sitting there that's thinking, well, I've got mine sort of like cut into two, and one's under my floorboard and the other one's at my nan's, right? Believe me, there's no such thing as infallible. And we all know of some very high profile people who you'd think would have had it sorted that didn't, and got hacked for a lot of XRP. So this can potentially happen to anyone. It doesn't matter how tech savvy you are. But of course, the least tech savvy you are, the more likely you are to be or on the top of the list to be attacked. And it's an unfortunate scourge in the entire crypto industry. It does not just sub XRP. No matter what you hold, you're at this kind of risk. But the XRP ledger, if we get this through, will have a level of protection baked in. We do have multi-sig today, which is sort of like a method of adding an extra layer of security, but it is quite complicated to understand, difficult to set up. It gets in your way of day-to-day transactions, having to sign things multiple times. And I am totally for multi-sig. I just want to make that clear. It's brilliant, right? But the stats don't lie, okay? Of the 250,000 plus accounts that hold more than 10,000 XRP, it's like 1,700 have multisig installed. It's less than 0.5% of accounts, and over 50 billion XRP are out there in the wild without multi-sig protection. It's only really enterprise people like Ripple and the exchange, the big exchanges that all have multi-sig. An average user that may have anything from 5,000 XRP to, 100,000 XRP, they don't have it. And so therefore they're literally, their private key is their last line of defense. So we are going to put an extra layer in on the protocol, and when you enable it, sleep sounder at night. And I apologize because that definitely wasn't 60 seconds. I must improve my pitch.
Hey, before you guys go, I guess the intro, there was no sound on the intro, but we got Chris Dangerfield joining us today. We're breaking down the XRP Firewall. Links in the description. You can find them on X at XRPL365, XRPLfirewall.com. Go ahead, guys.
How does this work?
Right. Okay, so how does it work? First of all, it's an amendment, and the key element that protects you is on the ledger, right? It's in the protocol. Mm-hmm. So essentially what happens in the simplest way of thinking about it is that when you enable the firewall, you do two required things, okay? You have to set it up. You have to set up a designated safe backup account. So in the event that you are hacked or you are socially engineered or whatever, you have a place where you can move your XRP to that is clean, and that backup wallet is the kind of thing that you would hope you're never going to need. It doesn't even need to be activated. It just needs to be a brand new wallet. And the best form of defense of that is to get that and stick it in some kind of like place that's nowhere even close to where you would normally keep your normal private key. Keep them totally separate, right? And you hope you never need it, okay? That's the first thing you do. And that essentially is your fail safe. So in the event of an attack or something, that's where you're going to ultimately want to move your XRP to keep it safe. The second thing you set is another private key. Now, to be very clear, this private key gives no control over your account at all. It only serves to do one thing, which is to guard against changes to the firewall settings once you've enabled it, right? Which means when I explain what the firewall settings are, it'll become clear. But essentially, only anybody with the private key can make a request to change the firewall. But that request will not succeed unless it is essentially countersigned by the second key, okay? Which is partly where the XRP firewall service that Dennis and I are also building will come in. Okay, so just to clarify, there's two elements to what we're building. There is a protocol amendment, okay, which will protect you. And you could, if you were savvy enough and you understand how it all works, you could technically just implement it on your own, and away you go, right? But you're ultimately responsible for everything, right? And what we are providing is an additional tool on top, which is essentially going to be a paid service, which I'll get into later, but it is going to be a really user-friendly interface with additional layers of security wrapped around it to protect you even further. And the goal is basically that what we don't want is to make the XRPR firewall so complicated that you don't use it, which is the problem we have with multisig today. People don't use it because it gets in their way. So XRPR firewall basically will, it sits on your account. You don't have to change the wallet that you use today because it's a protocol level thing, right? It'll work with any wallet. It just sits there and protects you, right? So there are two sides of it, and I'll get into that in a minute, right? But this is how the firewall will work day to day, right? You're a user. Okay. So let's just say that you I don't know, let's pick an exchange. Let's say Kraken, right? So let's say you use Kraken. Okay. You're going to want to be able to send your XRP to Kraken as and when it suits you, right? And you would want to potentially do that in any amount of money, right? Now, we all know with Kraken, they're going to have the various R addresses that you would set with your destination tag, right? So what you have on the firewall is two objects. You have a whitelist, which are a number of accounts that you have specified that you're happy to send your XRP to without any kind of amount limit. Okay, so if you want to send your entire bag to Kraken, if you whitelisted it, you could do that, right? Yes. In addition to that, you also have a value and a time-based limit. So in order to be able to use your XRPL account to say, go and buy an NFT, maybe you want to buy an NFT and it's 20 XRP, right? Well, lots of people do that regularly and they don't really want to be having to go in and keep whitelisting accounts and all that kind of stuff. So what you can do is you can set a period of time and a limit. So you may go with a daily limit, you may go with a weekly limit. The key thing is you know your habits of how you use your XRP better than anyone. So we don't tell you what to do. We just give you a tool that lets you do it the way you want to do it, right? Now, I'll use an example of a 24-hour period. So you say, in 24 hours, I don't want any more than, say, 100 XRP to leave my account. Okay? Now, that would enable you to go and buy a cool cap with XRPL logo on it, or go and buy a mug, or buy an NFT, or a subscription to one of the DeFi protocols, or whatever you're going to do, right? And it doesn't get in the way because it's under that threshold, the payment goes through without any form of restriction, okay? Now, because you set it up, you know what those limits are. So it's a bit like the traditional banking system in that we all have daily limits on how much you can send out of your bank account before you have to start ringing them up and go jumping through hoops. The difference is there's no ringing up. There'll be a nice, sexy interface that you can simply log on to and make the change you need to. Okay. So that's how it would work in a day-to-day sort of environment. So you know you're going to want to whitelist Kraken. You've got two other XRPL accounts and you move funds between them for various reasons. So you whitelist the 3, 4, however many accounts you've got that you want to be able to send unrestricted to. And then you set your daily limits or weekly or whatever you want to be whatever suits you. Okay. Our user interface literally will make it as simple as, once you've signed in with whatever wallet you use, it is going to be as simple as, I want to enable the firewall. This is the backup account I want to send to. Enable the private key for the secondary signing, and then go. Click a button, boom. It's a simple Zaman wallet. Click swipe right. No more difficult than sending a payment. And then essentially that protection is on Ledger. Okay. Let's say a week later, you decide you're changing exchanges. Now you're going to go to Binance. So you want to whitelist Binance. You log in, simple interface. I want to add the Binance address in. I want to add the destination tag in, and click, 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 done. Swipe right onto the ledger. And now it is there. So essentially it's meant to be, with security, there's not going to be any such thing as a security system that is not going to annoy you in some way. It's there to protect you. So everybody has to find their own level of the balance between I want this to have this protection, but I don't want to be tripping over it every 5 minutes. So if you use your wallet a lot and you're always buying NFTs, then you're probably not going to want to set a 10 XRP limit, right? You're probably going to want to have a more healthy limit than that. But ultimately, that's your choice, right? You set it to whatever you want it to be. And that fundamentally is it. There's going to be a whole raft of things wrapped around it in terms of what the service we provide will do. But I wanted to just make a very clear point. When this thing is adopted onto the main net, it's protocol, right? And so that means that anybody can technically get access to it themselves. You don't have to come to us to use the system, right? It is on ledger. You can do it yourself. The reason we feel that a service like this would be beneficial is because, honestly, for what we're going to charge you, the amount of hoops you're going to have to jump through every time you want to add a whitelist, if you're going to try and do it yourself, using either some kind of like node script, or maybe you're going to try and fashion something together with your own app or whatever. Why would anybody want to bother doing that when what we're going to be charging is essentially going to be really very small amount of money, right? So the goal is for us to keep the pricing at such a point where this just becomes a no-brainer across the board. And the other thing is that, yes, there is going to be, of course, it's open source on the protocol. So we're giving it freely to the whole community. We're building an optional tool that you can use if you want an easy life and you want the convenience of being able to use it. But again, you don't have to. But fundamentally, yes, we're going to build a viable business, but we're also building this protocol because, I want it.
Yeah.
I would sleep safer at night knowing that I got that. So would Dennis, and so would everyone. And like Dennis said to someone the other day on a space call, he just, he wants to be able to leave his nano on his coffee table because he's been doing something with it, and not have to go and hide it away because his cleaner's coming in. That kind of thing. Someone's going to steal it. With this enabled, I'm not saying you should be careless with your private key. You should not. But ultimately, if you get caught for whatever your reason is, right?
Yep.
It's just there to protect you. Okay? So we're trying to build this thing to be a benefit to the entire XRP community. And when I say XRP community, there are lots of different factions in our community. There are lots of people that believe in lots of different narratives around the XRPL. But one thing that absolutely we all share is a risk of essentially account draining. It doesn't matter if you're part of the $10,000 crew, or you're part of the I'm selling it all at $10 crew, or I believe in bears. No, I don't. It doesn't matter who you are and what you're doing.
Bears are real, Chris. We got news for you, bro.
You're at risk.
We got news for you.
Ultimately, if you hold the XRP, you are a potential benefactor of what we're building. And so the goal is that, yes, developers like to build cool stuff, but we also want to build stuff people use. We don't want to build something and no one use it. So we fundamentally agreed that the goal here is to make it accessible to everybody. So we will basically try and find a price point so that it is accessible. So it doesn't matter whether you literally are holding 2,000 XRP, and that's your life savings. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're holding 200 million XRP. It really doesn't matter how much you ultimately own. We want to make it so that you can ultimately afford it, and everybody gets the benefit out of this system.
Two questions.
I got a question, Chris. Oh, sorry.
Real quick.
Nerdy, go ahead.
Two questions. You don't have to tell me the price. The main question is it going to be a subscription service, or is it going to be a one-time buy feature? Second question is this going to be an X app feature on the Zaman wallet?
Two great questions. The answer to the first one is we don't know, because we haven't even considered what the pricing will be. Because we're at such a stage now where we need to get support behind this, because this has to go through the amendment process, right? This is not some software we can just build and put live. So it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And it is, when I say months of work, months is probably not doing it justice. It's a shit ton of work to do,
Mhm.
right? And we don't want to build it for a few hundred people. And it also won't get live if it's built for a few hundred people. This is a tool that's built for everybody that holds XRP, and it needs to be supported by everybody that holds XRP. And if it is, it stands a very good chance that we can get this thing live, and then everybody can have that protection. So we took the view, we're not going to waste our time worrying about what we might charge if we get it over the line. All we've agreed are a few basic fundamental principles. One of those is that it will be a sliding scale of charge. So it's going to cost you a different amount if you hold 1,000 XRP to if you hold 10,000 to if you hold 1,000,000. You'll be paying on a sliding scale on that basis.
Yeah.
And the other thing is going to be that we want it to be inclusive. So we've got to find ways of making sure that nobody feels like they can't have this feature. It needs to be available for everyone. And we're going to build this thing transparently. One of the reasons we're asking for email on sign up is because we want to be able to send updates. We're also going to ask you to do like a survey. We'll ask you lots of questions. One of those things is going to be price point. At some point, if we get over the line, we're going to have to make a decision. And in order to do that, we're going to actually ask everybody what that price point needs to be and how we do it. Is it going to be a monthly fee? Is it going to be an annual fee? We don't. The truth is, at this stage, we don't know. But as for an XApp, absolutely.
I mean, Chris,
Nice.
on day
That's
one,
what I wanted to hear. Yeah.
on day one,
Go ahead, Zucker, go ahead. Go ahead.
On day one, we will obviously be launching our own site first, right? But the thing about an XApp, right, is that building an XApp actually is pretty simple to do, right? Because the XRP Labs team did a brilliant job of actually everything that goes on underneath, which most people don't see. So once we've built our main system, turning that into an XApp actually is more a case of removing things and juggling screens to match the Zaman layout. And other than that, it's like an obvious iteration of step 2. So we will go live initially with the web, but very much of the view that we want to be XApp, and ultimately the goal is that you shouldn't have to change anything about how you do it yourself, right?
Yes.
So the other thing is Dennis works for XRP Labs, so we have got a very obvious relationship there, which we can have good conversations and constructive conversations when the time comes about how we would essentially create an XApp to use this feature. So it absolutely would be on our roadmap. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay,
But,
so
I mean, I'm just
my
one comment real
go
quick.
ahead, Nerdy. Go ahead.
Tangent wallet that Zaman offers, combined with Chris's Firewall. That's all I'm saying. Go ahead.
Beautiful. My questions, Chris, to you are for the layman that own XRP, whether they own 1 million or 10,000 XRP, whatever, But my question is privacy. Privacy. I believe, in my opinion, there's a lot of people that will not want to answer any kind of questions. They're just going to want to privately be part of this. That kind of segues into the second question, which is how are you guys in the back end, the developers and the people involved in this? How are you guys going to not have access, or at least how are we going to trust that your access to the secondary account and the multi-sig properties and the secondary set of keys, how are we going to trust that that's all secure? That's my question. So privacy, both on information and KYC, and also privacy on the keys in the back end. How do we trust it? Sorry,
Here we go.
Right. So first of all, the first thing that I can say is that any data that we hold about anybody will be encrypted in our database. Okay.
Quick question.
So
I have to ask a question with that, because is your equipment going to be based in the UK, right?
I mean, to be honest, at this stage, we haven't even considered where we would actually host the servers. Based on realistically, it's likely to be sharded all around the world. This won't run on a single server. It's going to be too big to do that. So
what I'm getting at is that means you're going to be running under 27001 2002 and 27,015, and you're going to have all the GPDR requirements because of the people out of Europe. So that means he's going to be have to report all the information in somewhere.
GDPR. I mean, I'm from the UK, so I'm very familiar with GDPR, and I've
I was talking about
systems that are GDPR compliant as well. So, the GDPR compliance is all about putting you as the user in control of your own data. We are essentially nothing more than sort of like it's your data. Ultimately, you're technically the data controller, right? We're just a data processor because you're using a piece of software. That's all very well defined in Europe. But when we take it very seriously, and we're also have been in the community a very long time, so we are totally aware of people's desire for privacy. So I can tell you, I've already written the back-end code, and literally everything about your personal data is encrypted in the database anyway already. That's already sort of like.
So we will have to self-identify to use your service. So that right, we will have to tell you who we are, our name, social security.
It has to be, and of course the other thing is that if this thing gets off the board and we get some momentum behind it, there's a lot of legal stuff that we're going to have to check out. We are going to set up a professional, regulated business, and that means we may have to treat certain people in certain parts of the world differently to others. And if the law in your country requires something, we would comply with whatever that law requires us to be. Because we wouldn't want to not be compliant, but where it is not required, it wouldn't be our goal to hold data for people that we don't need, right? So, but again, these are the types of questions that we will be wanting to get feedback on as we go through the process of building. Now, I forgot the other question.
One was based on KYC and personal info, and the other one was based on how safe is the back end, like the secondary account
element. Yeah. Okay, so first of all, then, with regards to the why would you trust us? The whole point is that you don't trust us because you're not trusting us. You're trusting the amendment that's essentially on Ledger, right? So, what you're really trusting, in truth, is the exact same system that you're already trusting today. There's your assets are secured by the XRP ledger itself by your private key, right? This is just an addition to that software. In order for this to go live, it is going to have to go through numerous reviews by different developers. It's almost certainly going to have to go through a security audit, and it's ultimately going to have to go past Ripple. And after all of those things have occurred, it's then got to make it through the validator vote, and we've got to get past that process. So it's going to have that many checks and tests. By the time it goes live, there's not really much more anyone can do to prove to you that the protocol itself is secure. So as long as you are using a credible solution to put it live, and by that I mean, like we all know, Zaman is a feature-complete wallet, right? So you could technically sign a transaction to put it live. So if you could create the transaction yourself, you could sign it with Zaman. If you use a credible solution like that to interact with the ledger, there is no reason that we're not really involved in that. There's no worry about trust at all. You're trusting the protocol to do that, and I think that really is, whilst the fact that we've got to make this an amendment is a real major frustration, it's a headache, and it means this is going to take months and months and months, and maybe even this time next year we might still not even be live. We don't, because the truth is nobody can say how long this will take, right? It's a frustration, but equally it's sort of a blessing, because if we were going to do an off-chain solution to this, then you would be trusting a third party. And nobody really wants to do that, because against the whole principle of self-custody, you'd be better off just custodying it with a custody provider at that point. This is true self-custody. It's written in the spirit of self-custody, and the goal is that you remain in control of your private keys, and that little sort of private key that you put on your account is there to do nothing more than stop anybody from making a change to your firewall, which would enable them to take your money. So let me just give you an example of what that might look like. You get compromised. The first thing an attacker generally would do is disable the master key and create a regular key for themselves, so that they can basically lock you out of your account, and they've now got all day, and all you can do is sit by and watch everything drain. There's nothing you can do once you're locked out. So when you enable the firewall, you cannot disable the master key. And what that means is you cannot be locked out of your account. So now you've both got access to the account, okay? But the attacker now wants to move all the XRP to a wallet that they control. But they can't move the money to their own wallet because it's not whitelisted. So they go, well, I'll whitelist my own wallet then, okay? Have you got the secondary key that you need to sign the transaction? No, because it's essentially managed by us, or you're doing it with some other third party, or you're doing it yourself, whichever way you decide to go. You now cannot, the attacker now cannot make a change to the firewall, okay? Now, alongside this, as part of our service, because this is a feature that the XRP ledger cannot do, we will essentially be monitoring your account. Every time that you have a transaction occur on your account, we will know about it. Okay, you'll be able to configure various settings, and we will tell you. And if you want to be told every single time a payment comes out of your account, technically we could do that. But we're embedding various codes into the ledger so that certain things, when certain things happen, like for example, if someone attempts to move all of the money from your account and they breach essentially the firewall rules, what happens is a special the transaction fails and a special code is returned in the response. Well, that's on ledger. We're monitoring that. So within 3 seconds of that happening, we will know about it. We will then tell you about it by whatever means you've chosen. So it'll most likely be email, because that's going to be the cheapest way for everyone to do it. But, you know, we've discussed maybe text messages and various other solutions, which are all still being discussed. But the goal is that you would be notified that something's potentially happened to your account. Now, you can log in because it's your account, and your account essentially is controlled by that second key to which you ultimately have access and the attacker doesn't. You can go in and do whatever you want. But the point is that you, at the very beginning of the conversation, I said you set up a safe backup account, right? You technically don't even need to log into our service. You could literally just send a payment of all your XRP to your backup account, and all your XRP is moved from an account, and the private key that the attacker has got is now worthless to them because you've moved all your XRP somewhere else. Okay? So that backup account essentially is your fail-safe mechanism for if something goes terribly wrong. You just literally send all your money from one account to the next, and hopefully you enable the firewall on that account, and then you go around again.
Okay. I have a question. Okay. Now, there's a flaw with Zaman Wallet and with blockchain in general with the seed phrase, meaning that if like, for example, if someone has a cold storage and then they take that cold storage seed phrase and they put it into the Zaman Wallet, well, now they have access to the same information that was on the cold storage because everything depended on the seed phrase. In that same instance, your service and everything that you're talking about and everything you provide with all the key phrase, all the keys and everything. If, for example, someone set all this up on one device, and yet someone went and bought a new device and had to set everything up again on that device, can both devices have access to the same features, or is it device ID dependent?
The device actually doesn't really come into it at all. As long as the device that you're using is feature complete, and you can sign what would be a new transaction type called firewall set, right? As long as the device you use, and Zanman almost certainly will be, and I'm sure all the other major wallets will all support it. I know that we will more than likely, well, Dennis will more than likely update the Ledger device as well to support it. So the goal is that you shouldn't have to change your wallet, and ultimately, you know, if you set your accounts up correctly, you could technically be having it on a multiple devices if you really wanted to. It doesn't matter. Those C phrases ultimately, they all boil back down to private keys, and there are ways in which things can be backwards engineered from your C phrases to ultimately get you access to these accounts. So ultimately, you haven't got to worry about any of that. You know, if you use a nano and you want to use it on Zoom, it doesn't matter to us because ultimately everything you do is stored on the ledger itself. It's on the mainnet database.
Okay.
Distributed. It's not stored on the
Yeah.
device that you use, and it is not tied to any kind of device ID either.
Okay.
I like how you said, Chris, I like how you said that it has to go through multiple approvals and dev audits and ultimately, pass the Byzantine, vote and the whole nine. There's a lot more to come. And this will definitely be scrutinized to the utmost before it goes live. So that makes
100%.
sense.
At the same time.
Very nice.
You know what's interesting though? At the same time,
every single amendment that goes live on the mainnet goes through a very rigorous process to check that it's okay and that there aren't bugs and stuff like that. I mean, there's a significant amount of work that goes on behind the scenes which most people don't see, and ultimately after all of that dev work is done and all of the audits have been passed, you still have the validators all in the last line of defense that all have to ultimately agree before it will actually go live. So I personally, I've been taking out the fact that I'll be involved in the building of it. Once any feature goes on the XRPL mainnet, I would be confident to use that feature. So it doesn't matter if it's Firewall or the new dusting proposal I've got out there, or maybe we have a new feature for something else in the future. It doesn't matter. My strength of feeling is that once it goes live, it's ready, and then it's ready for everybody to use. And I hope that people would recognize the amount of effort that goes in by the devs to make sure that amendments are safe before they go live. There's too much actual real money at risk. No one's gonna start playing chicken with $1 trillion asset, right? Which is where this is all heading, right?
Yeah,
XRP's market cap is going to be measured in trillions, not billions, and ultimately, who's going to upload a bit of software that hasn't been tested to that? And
okay, I want to ask you a question on that. Okay, there's a good segment. Thank you for talking about the firewall, but I want to go veer off a little bit. How do you feel about RLUSD? What do you think that's going to do to the ledger? And do you think it's been an influx of transactions, and how do you think that's going to work out?
I think it's game changing in some respects because the fact that they've done it on ETH as well is very telling, because it's essentially going to act as a form of bridge. It's going to now allow people to move one asset across chains, and it's going to potentially open up some very interesting things. I also think from our perspective in Firewall, right? One of the things I haven't said is that we have another proposal for an mainnet amendment called subscriptions. Subscriptions is essentially a mechanism where the XRPL can support the equivalent of a regular payment without you having to keep signing every single month to say you're happy. It's like you agree to a certain number in advance, and then he just pulls the money as per agreement. When we eventually get around to the conversation about how we're going to charge for this, the question I would ask you is, do you want to pay in XRP? Do you want me to make you put a credit card in and pay with dollars? Or should we use RLUSD? Now we're starting to think that we should bill everybody in RLUSD, because nobody actually wants to really be paying in XRP. Then you bought it for an investment reason, so it's a negative thing when you say we will pay. You can pay in XRP. It's like, I don't really want to spend my XRP, not on that. But weirdly, I've got some RLUSD that I'm happy to use because it's not going up or down; it's a stable.
Exactly.
So I've got $100 of RLUSD is still going to be $100 RLUSD tomorrow, right? So ultimately, people will be more happy, I think, to be prepared to say, I'll pay X amount of dollars per month to use this, no problem. So we are thinking that RLUSD combined with our new subscription proposal is going to be game-changing for the XRPL, because it's going to enable everybody that's building a real business on the ledger to charge real customers a stable value of money every single month. I mean, could you imagine if I told you that we were going to charge you I got this idea for a cool service and I want to charge you 2 XRP a month to use it. And you go, well, 2 XRP, it's currently 50 cents. So it's going to cost me $1 a month. Yeah, I'll do that. And then what?
Yeah,
if
until it goes up.
You'd be paying $5 a month now. So RLUSD brings to business something that consumers are going to want, which means I don't now have to go and update all our systems to charge you less XRP because a dollar is always going to be a dollar.
Nice.
So I actually love it. I think it's brilliant. I think it should have happened 3 years ago.
Agreed. 100% agreed on that.
Also, though, I think it's brilliant, and I think the higher XRP climbs, the more customers you're going to end up having, because they're going to start feeling the weight of self-custody. Self-custody is cool when it's $20,000. What happens when it's $25 million, right? So the higher this thing goes up,
right?
The more of the weight of being your own boss and your own bank. Like, people are talking a lot of shit, but they also don't understand. I would love to have a second.
This firewall feature, bro. Hell yeah.
I already separate. I don't like doing anything out of my cold storage. Like, I'll use some as my fucking middleman. Go do some
but
dumb
the thing
shit.
is,
I don't
again,
want,
one of the things which we will be doing is help to guide you with our services, guiding you into good hygiene around your security, right? So we'll have videos and tutorials on making sure that you're doing good habits, regardless of what the firewall's doing for you. This is just sort of like extra value to our service, right? And for a start, you should have more than one account. One of them should have the majority of your XRP that you are ultimately looking to secure long term. That should be on some kind of cold storage device, and you should have extremely good key management around that. You're not really meant to use a cold storage device to go and buy a 10 XRP NFT. That's what Zaman is for and other wallets. You want a hot wallet now, which you can use for day-to-day transactions, which holds enough XRP for you to use, but not that if it got compromised, you'd lose all your money. But nevertheless, just because you've got a cold wallet doesn't mean that you can't fall foul of some kind of a social engineering scam, which so many people do when they get phone calls from Ledger claiming that, the account's been hacked and we need to make sure your XRP is safe. And I've had personal experience of someone that on a Twitter space that came on, and she'd been hacked. They'd socially engineered her, and they got her private key off her over the phone. And then she's like, all my XRP's gone. And she'd come on this Twitter call and she was crying. And it's like, I don't understand how this has happened. It's real. It happens. And it happens far more often than what people like to talk about. So, if me putting this live with Dennis is going to save one more person from going through the hell of knowing that they've lost. This lady had been buying it dollar cost average for years. She was a pensioner in her 70s. She's buying it for her grandkids as an inheritance. And she's fallen foul of a socially engineered scheme, and they've took the lot. That's not
horrible.
Good.
Yeah,
and if I can stop one more person from having to go through the pain that she's gone through, it's not even the fact that she's lost, I don't know, however many thousands of dollars it would have ended up being, but she's now not passing that on to her kids or her grandkids. And in her mind, she's putting a few $1,000s in now, and she's convinced that's going to be tens of thousands in years to come for her kids. It's going to maybe be the deposit on a house for them. And they've not just robbed a few $1,000s, they've robbed her grandchildren's future.
Yep.
And if I can stop one person from having to go through that hell, then this whole thing would have been worth it. And if we can stop thousands of people from having to go through that, then it's 1,000 times worth it, right?
That alone makes it worth whatever you guys are going to charge. I'll pay for it.
Well, and the thing is, we just want everybody to use this. We don't want this to be like I've got to get the pricing right. I want to build a business so that we're around and we can support people for years. I don't want to find myself in a situation that some are in now where they're having to try and include it later. I just want to be upfront with everyone and say there's going to be a cost. But honestly, if you're not prepared to spend a couple of dollars a month to secure your assets against being socially engineered, then don't come crying, because you don't ring me, and you certainly can't ring the bank. Don't ring Brad Garlinghouse. You can't ring anyone. And it's your and the worst part about it, it's going to be ultimately your own responsibility to secure your own assets. So
Gary's not going to do nothing.
yet.
Yeah. Yeah, the SEC is not going to do nothing at all. You already know that.
Gary's trying to
Go
get
ahead.
the baggies.
But
Yeah,
you
have
got
you
some.
have you guys figured out the security operations side of this? Meaning, it's obvious you're going to have a 24 SOC going, and the SOC agent's jobs will be to respond to alerts coming off of whatever system you have and notifying customers and talking to customers. Have you guys figured that portion out yet?
We've had conversations about ways in which we might handle stuff like that. And again, it goes to the point that this cannot be free. How can I pay people
100%.
to perform that kind of job and then give it all for free? There's going to have to be an acknowledgement that if you want that level of service, there's going to be a cost. But I mean, if everybody that holds XRP is using it, and this just becomes a natural narrative, so get your wallet, secure your keys, install the firewall, now go and put your secret key in your hiding place, wherever you put it, right? It needs to become part of the fabric of the XRPL onboarding process. And if we do that and everybody uses it, then suddenly we don't need to charge lots of money, because a little bit across a lot of people makes it very viable.
Exactly.
Have you guys looked at the insurance factor of this? Meaning, you're technically dealing with someone's digital asset. Has the insurance company said, "Hey, you start up your company after the protocol is done, we'll back you up, but because you're dealing with these accounts, you're going to have some type of insurance per account based on amount." Have you guys had those discussions with insurance companies?
We got to have the legal. We've had some very early stage legal conversations, but there's a lot more conversation to go. Technically, we're not custodying anything for you. The ledger is doing all the lifting. We're essentially providing a second layer security, and it's going to be very similar to your online banking, right? And you're going to have, and we're going to let you choose, right? So there's certain things which would be mandatory, like multi-factor authentication. You're going to have some kind of additional layer above and beyond a username and a password, right? But we're going to let you choose. How much do you want to make sure your XRP is safe? And these are very early stage conversations, right? But we're talking about things where you could have a PIN number, right? It's the sort of thing that you don't really need to write down. It's in here. Or we might ask you, what was the name of your first pet? You don't need to write that down for an attacker to get. That's in your mind, right? It's something that someone can't steal from you, as in break in your house and take it, right? And there's a whole raft of different things which we're going to look to build and wrap around this, which would only be part of our service. The XRP ledger can't do that. If you use the XRP ledger directly, it literally will come down to, how safe am I keeping my private key? And how safe am I keeping this secondary key that essentially guards the firewall? And if you end up sticking the two of them in the same folder in your filing cabinet, then you kind of defeated the point of actually using the firewall. You've got to keep them separate. So by using our service, you essentially do that. You put that hard line between, and if someone compromises you, that second layer is not essentially compromised. So we're having lots of conversations. We've also had an interesting conversation with a legal stroke insurance type person that is like, this person is kind of convinced that insurance is coming for crypto, because people are going to want a service. And if you were told that you could insure your crypto and we're going to charge you $1,000 a year as an insurance premium to do it, there were lots of people that would pay that, right? To know that if they got hacked. Now, if an insurance company says, well, if you've got the firewall on, the odds of being like dropped through the floor, right? So now we could offer the same level of premium for a lot less, because the risk profile goes down significantly. And there's a whole raft of conversations that are kind of going on. Also, other conversations with people that are dealing with high net worth individuals that hold millions of XRP, that are not particularly tech savvy, that almost want to be just safeguarded. They don't want multi-sig, I've been told specifically, but this is something that they want, because they trade this XRP, right? They move it around a lot, and they're not enterprise level companies. They don't have teams of devs managing back-end systems for them. This is an individual person that holds several million XRP. And so there's a lot of interest from this. that surprised me, because I was building this with Dennis for retail. So you guys are my customer. You're the exact type of person that we want to use this, because you're sort of like the retail type user that's looking at this as an investment or trading or whatever. You're not a bank, and you're not some big enterprise level business that can afford to pay 4 developers full time to manage it for you, right? We want to make it so that you get industry grade security for your account without having to pay that level of money for it. So
I think Buster had something to say.
Yeah.
We got a few
So-
minutes
go
left
ahead.
too on the show, so last questions if you guys want to drop them. Also, before we
So-
get out of here, Chris, if you want to drop a little info on that minimum account that you got going on too.
yeah, I'll happily do that
On the-
for you. Yeah.
On the backup address, you guys could ignite that, or do I have to get the alert and then send it to my backup myself? Or can I put in a thing, send it to the backup address?
Right. We would absolutely
let's say they do-
not create. We would not create the backup account for you, because that would be a security risk for you. You would create your own backup account and simply register it with the firewall system, right? So you remain in total control and the security around that backup account. My advice would be you take that backup account and you store it somewhere totally separate. Ideally, get the
Yeah.
cheapest safety deposit box in a bank and stick it in there for the next 20 years and don't touch it. Leave it. It never needs to be used
Oh.
ever.
Is it possible
so
for
on
you
that
to come
note-
back in a couple months and give us a demo of the software
Sorry?
and everything? Is it possible for you to come back in a couple months or so and give us a demo of the software and how it works from a user
absolutely, absolutely, 100%, and it'll be on testnet. So before this goes live, you'll be able to go on and fiddle around with it on testnet and have a play and do whatever you want. So get a feel for how it will work. But of course, that's slightly premature, because at this stage, my big ask to everybody that's watching this and everybody that will watch me talk about this going forward is that we need support from the community to let us know that the intent is there to use this system if we build it. I need people to sign up and just offer us that level of intent that we want it. If we get that level of intent, we will build this. If people can't even be prepared to essentially just register free to say they want it, what's the chances of them actually deciding they're going to install it when it's built? And so we need that level of support.
Can you give us a white paper that shows all the proposed changes you want to make to the ledger? Because a lot of people in this space, they want to see this stuff. They may not understand it, but they like to see it.
Well, we're not doing a white paper, because there is no token involved in this. There is no NFTs. There's nothing like that. It's a straight up business proposal.
It's still software.
It's like an amendment. Like it's something. It's just an add-on.
What we
feature.
do have is something
So
called
it doesn't matter. I still want to see that, because no matter what, when they go through the change control process, and it's got to be documented on what's going to change. So you want to know what people are going to change.
All of that information is available today. It's called XLS 86D, and the link is on the homepage in the introduction section, and you can go and read it. That is essentially the technical discussion about exactly why we're building it, what it does for you, and technically all the fields that change, all the new objects that get created, everything you need to know at a technical level is on there.
Link in the chat. Also dropped it in the private chat if you guys want to check that out.
Chris, I have a question for you real quick.
Let me ask him about the backup real quick. Because
go ahead.
I understand I set my own address, but my question was like, if I set up the firewall for my own parameters and then my keys get exposed or someone tries to steal my shit and they go outside of my parameters that I set up through the firewall, does it automatically kick in to send it to the backup address, or do I have to do it after I'm notified that my parameters has been?
Yeah, it's not an automatic process, because you as the user may accidentally breach the rule yourself because you thought something was in a whitelist and it's not. And we would just be moving your XRP, A, for no reason, and B, would just annoy you because now you've got to go to a bank, get the key, and go through the right process. So ultimately, we will tell you when we think there's a problem, and it'll be on you to go in and actually do the final transaction to move it if you want to. So it's not an automated process. It's something you do if you feel the time is right. However, there's no urgency around doing that, right? Because the attacker cannot take the money out of your account. The maximum damage an attacker could do is if you'd set, say, 100 XRP limit on your account because you want to use it on a day-to-day basis, the attacker could take whatever that balance was left on the 24-hour. And if you delayed for another day, then you would potentially then lose another 100 XRP. But, we'll be ratcheting up the emails to you and saying it's happening again, and trying to make sure make sure that you're aware of it. And ultimately, we'll do as much as we can reasonably do to let you know. But, again, this goes back to the whole idea of privacy and anonymity. I understand the reasons why, but at the same time, if you're not even going to give us an email, how do we even tell you if there's a problem? There has to be some element of us being able to communicate with you to give you a service. But that ultimately is on you. It's your XRP. It's your choice. It's up to you. You may just decide to log in once a week and check. But then,
and Chris, real quick before we cut out, because the show's about to end real quick, I want to ask you a real quick question. There's an amendment that's out right now that has to do with drops, because there's been a problem with the XRP ledger and a lot of crypto accounts throughout various networks where people spam people's accounts with 0.000 whatever one of the network. I believe this is a really good thing that we need to stop that, because it's really annoying. I hate it. It's the reason why I stopped using a lot of Ethereum networks for that exact reason.
XLS 76.
Real quick. About that. Yeah. Talk about that real quick, please. Go ahead.
Again, I'm sure you can pull that up now. XLS 76D, the proposal is there, it's written. And essentially what that does, it enables you to set a minimum incoming amount on essentially your account. And so somebody may try and send you 100 drops, which we call dust, right? And it would just reject the transaction, say, I don't want it. And it never even touches your account. The transaction fails at their end, right? And it never comes to you. But if, let's just say you set the minimum at, say, half an XRP, if somebody genuinely wanted to send you a few XRP, it would come into your account fine. So it's got nothing to do with who's sending you the money. It's all to do with how much they're sending you. So if somebody wants to spam you, with 1 XRP, I'm sure you'd probably be quite happy to have that, right? But who wants 100 drops?
Exactly.
And so,
beautiful.
And I've seen people have sent me screenshots of accounts where there's literally pages and pages and pages of drops coming in, and it just makes it really difficult to use your account. So I know there's a lot of support for this. It also helps with clogging up the network, and people also put massive amounts of memo spam on these things. It's also a reason why a lot of people get caught in scams, because they put links in there and you click on them, and that takes you. So there's a lot of good reasons why this would be a good thing. And of course, if we can get Firewall up and running, we'll build minimum incoming amount at the same time, and we'll drop that in as almost like another feature. And Firewall, I have a feeling, is going to slowly expand with additional bits and pieces. And then now you'd be able to go in and set a minimum incoming amount. You can set your Firewall, and who knows what we'll come up with in the future if we're able to make a sustainable business. And I've got devs on team, and we can, really grow this thing, right?
The reason why I brought it up, and I want to thank you for introducing that, is because I actually brought my mom on the XRP ledger, and I actually set up her account, and she has a Zaman wallet and everything, and she always gets little receipts, says, Baggy sent me 0.0001. And I'm like, no, Mom, that's a scam. Ignore it. That's not true. And I keep having to explain it, but like, no, there's a memo. I was like, no, it's a scam. Just like, don't click the link. Just ignore it. So I want to appreciate you. Thank you for that. It's a really good amendment. But thank you for having you on, man. It was a beautiful conversation.
No, thank you for inviting me onto your show and letting me talk to your audience. And I would just make one final plea. That's please just go and take a look at the website. If nothing else, go and read about it. And if you like what you read, please just sign up. It's just an email address, right? We're not going to send you loads of spam emails, just a few emails to just let you know what we're doing and get you involved in it, right? And we're trying to, in order to make sure that we get this thing moving, we're doing an early bird offer. So if you scroll down a little bit more on there, you'll see like a little progress chart. So there's a line on there. So if we got an early bird, so the first 2,000 people that sign up are going to basically get the first 2 months of our service for free, assuming we can get this thing live. And we just want to get people using it. And when you sign up, you will get your own referral link, like you get with PayPal and Revolut. So we got to get this to everyone, right? And not everybody watches YouTube and not everybody's on Twitter, but there's a lot of people that hold XRP that bought it years ago. You probably know some of them because you probably introduced them, right? Sign up, get your link. Then if you tell all of your friends, I can get in touch with a few thousand people through the Twitters and the YouTubes, and suddenly we can 10x that by going out to everybody's in individual networks, and then we can get this thing into tens of thousands. And then I think we're really cooking then. I think we've got a real chance of doing something genuinely great for the XRPL community. So go and sign up and please support us.
Sign up now, get that early bird discount. We got coffee time coming up next.
Brad Kleins released something earlier on today, and he took half of them already gone. So I mean, there's not going to be our early bird for very long, I don't think.
Chris, I wanted to say you're a genius, and I often talk about I often talk about the concept of the Dunning-Kruger effect, where you think that everybody else thinks like you. And I think the fact that you're such on a higher level as far as like being an IT guy, kind of like Fuma and Nerdy and like Bagman, like they got a lot of computer smarts. I think that you're going to find the maximum success if you can dumb down the explanation of how safe this is. I think that's your money shot right there. So,
but as we get ramp up into self-custody, there's going to be other businesses that's going to want a service like what you're doing is huge.
Yep.
It is.
And the interface easier and better you can make it for grandma and grandpa, the better you'll be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I've been building user interfaces for websites for nearly 30 years. Back before the .com boom was when I started. So I'm pretty confident that we're going to deliver a product that everybody's going to want to use. But again, that's just what I think. Now the proof is going to be in the eating now. Are people going to actually sign up, and are they going to support this? And if they do, then I think we will. I think we'll be in business. I think we're going to do something really good for people.
Make sure to give
I
Chris
think the
a follow.
money's there, Chris. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, and then we'll close out.
Okay, I was just going to say, I think the money is there, Chris. It's about the safety. People are going, what's the difference between, I'm telling you, from a layman, because I'm not the genius that you guys are. I'm a layman, and my head is going, what's the difference between Cold Wallet and Firewall? You understand? So I get that there's another layer, but that computer amendment must be dumbed down and delivered to the public for them to actually trust. The trust is where is the key or the gateway to the money flowing in. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the trust comes from me being able to explain it to the people like you that can understand it.
Yep.
And many of the other advocates that we've got on our website right now that are prepared to put their name to it, and having them also go out and publicly say, no, we've looked at the amendment, we understand it, and we would use it. And if at the end of the day, if you guys are prepared to use it, that's going to give a lot of confidence to other people that are perhaps not quite understanding of it. And I think this is a community effort. We've got to get the awareness raised. And I think if we do that, we're good.
Hey Chris, everybody's saying that you and I are brothers. Here, bro, here's some glasses. We can be brothers. Shout out, Chris. We appreciate you coming in, bro.
Shout out to Chris for jumping on. Make sure to give him a follow over on XRPL365. Links in the description. Make sure to check out XRPL Firewall. Hit the join list. Get an early bird discount. Make sure to support. Join the Firewall wait list. We got Chris Dangerfield on hand today. Appreciate you joining us, Chris. We also got coffee time coming up right after this. We'll see you guys on coffee time. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Drop a like on the way out. Shout out to I am Deco Thomas for the $10 super chat. Angus Grimm for the super chat. 3 Digits for the super chat. We also got Brad Garland House tonight, 60 minutes. XRP pump party. Let's go. Later, glitches.
We love it.
Sort of make you feel left out with the XRP logos.
Oh, yeah.
Bagman, pump my bags up. Bagman, pump our bags up. Let's
Later,
go.
bitches. Coffee
Pump
time
it.
next.
Pump it up, pump it up. Pump it up, gotta pump my bags up. Pump it to the moon, pump my bags up. XRP, pump it to the moon. Pump it up, pump my bags up. Pump it up, gotta pump my bags up. Pump it up, gotta pump my bags up. Pump it up, XRP to the moon.